26. Pollen is about to ramp right up, folks. So this is a virtual meeting. Folks can join us with a link at the top of our agenda, as well as dialing in by phone using the webinar ID. I'll call us to order. Around the table, committee members are Mary Wright, Ginny Farber, Judith Bruce, myself, Kevin Galligan, your chair, John Smith, Lynn Bruneau, and Bob Mullen. With us are
Congratulations. Nicely done.
George Preserve, DPW Director, Finance Committee Chair, and many others. Welcome, everybody. I just wanted to say before we even opened to public comment, and it was just on the drive back, and before we started, one member was mentioning how, so much is going on in the spring, preparations for town meeting, we have elections coming up, some of us are still cleaning up from a certain blizzard with yard work, but I just have to say thank you to all of you guys who serve. A lot of people do not realize you get the packets, you read, you prepare. Some of us are working overtime over weekends sometimes, but I just want to say thank you to all of you for stepping up and doing what you do on your own boards, but contributing here. It's what really makes our work, I think so meaningful. It emphasizes the values of this town, and I just want to say thanks. So,
Back at you.
yeah.
Indeed.
So, anyone here for public comment? Anyone online for public comment? Mike, thanks for joining us. I see you on Zoom. All right, so we have correspondence, and we have drought leaders around the table who might want to speak to the great work that I'm sure Amanda put together with your guidance. I'm looking just in order at the table. Mary, Ginny, you've been the champs on this. I love to see it all in writing. It's
Well,
nice. Yes.
here's most of it. Here's
Anna.
most of it. Not all the details. For instance, there is an agricultural exemption, but that doesn't apply to everyone, and so let's not muddy the waters. So yes, we are still in a drought. I know that's hard to believe, but our wells are at a historic low. They came back a little bit with the snow and the rain, but they are not there yet. So essentially, this is a water restriction on watering lawns and gardens by sprinklers and automatic irrigation systems. Thank you. We didn't do that last year because we started with level 1 drought, went to a level 2 this year. We're starting at a level 2 drought, probably going to a level 3. Washing exterior surfaces, driveways, sidewalks, decks, filling or topping off swimming pools from metered water sources, washing vehicles at home. Those are the quick and dirty things that you can't do or are prohibited. Irrigation, if you're using it, is from handheld hose or drip irrigation between 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. Yes, there is an exemption for public recreation areas and parks, but we urge DPW to work within those guidelines as well. It's a better look. And there are violations. Violations of the restrictions are enforceable with fines. If someone sees something, they should say something, and if they don't want to call the water department, they can get in touch with me and I'll do it. What else can we say?
Just to add, Ginny, I think right on the bottom of the flyer, it does say, and the water department is more than happy to take your calls. The number is 508-255-1200.
Yes.
And it also includes wells.
It does include wells. That is at the very top. So that's really an important piece, is that this includes water from wells.
I'll just say that I think this flyer is absolutely excellent. It's the first time to me that I've sort of got it. It's comprehensive, it's clear, it's concise, and yeah, it's a lot, but the whole thing is a lot. So this is great. I shared it with every member of our road association. I forwarded it on to 4 other road associations for them to share with their members. I would recommend that everybody else do that because so many of the people that live here aren't here as residents year-round. And so therefore, their property managers need to be aware of this, and they need to understand what the rules are going to be this summer.
I will add that if you want to get further into the weeds of the exceptions and exemptions, it is very easy to Google Mass DEP Level 2 drought restrictions, and it just comes up. And the other thing I want to stress, and I know Mary and I have talked about this, is this is not an Orleans-centric drought. This is all of eastern Massachusetts, central Massachusetts, all of the Cape.
All of the
Every
Cape,
town on the Cape has water restrictions. They all look a little different, but they are in place.
Yeah, and honestly, if you look at the news just last night, serious fires going on in Georgia to upper Florida, again, because of drought conditions. So this is not just, little town of Orleans. We need to be concerned about this nationwide. But great messaging, and again, I really push the number, because I've actually called, and, many people on the first violation, Water Department will send a letter that's considered a warning, but it's educational. Because some people just don't see these flyers, don't come to meetings. I can't imagine that. Why wouldn't people watch all these meetings? But
Some people do.
Because our work is so engaging and
It is.
fascinating.
Mike, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations on that great flyer. I think it's really good. I was going to jump in. I hadn't intended to participate in this part of the meeting, but two interesting intersections here. And I have, I'm actually going to show you some slides.
Okay.
Okay, are those visible?
Yes.
Okay, so two intersections here. I just smiled when I looked at the piece that Ginny sent me. So if you look at the regulated activities, and she mentioned them, if you had asked me to say, Mike, define consumptive use, in nitrogen management setting, this is the same list. These are uses of water that don't end up with water going to your septic system. So remember, the whole Mass Estuaries Project approach is to use water use as a surrogate for nitrogen load. But first is to take 10% off the top for consumptive use, and here they are. So, I smiled when I saw this because it's a different issue, but it's really the same issue.
It is.
So I look at, so one, we're trying to control consumptive use to protect regional water table elevations. Great thing. But we've got a program in place that may impact how we get credit for nitrogen removal. Because we're fine tuning the consumptive use. So that's the first intersection. Second one is at the bottom of this slide. Let me be critical and say, why don't you put some fines in place that mean something? These are too low. And it's the second intersection because it intersects with our proposed activity to do a better job of managing fertilizer use in the Mill Pond watershed. So whether it be controlling fertilizer use or controlling unnecessary water use, is this level of fine adequate to do either one?
Well, Mike, I see
Anyway.
a water and sewer commissioner taking notes as you mentioned that. So no doubt, and these are in their domain, they may consider that. But yeah, it's, in fact, if folks did watch the select board meeting last week, I kind of violated the public comment policy, but only because of the urgency of this issue. Someone said, so what are the violations and enforcement? So I actually kind of, went through the incremental, approach that we take in terms of the notice and then increasing fines. But you're right, Mike. Nowhere near a penalty. It's almost like pay it and you get the ability to waste, and that's not acceptable. Okay.
So the theme, in my view, is, we're doing the right thing. Are we doing enough of it? Is it too much? And I think this is a group that each year is going to fine tune based on what they did last year, and improve the situation. So, you know me, I like to look back and develop a spreadsheet. So here's the last 5 years of water use restrictions, and thank you to George and Sue Brown for providing me this. So there's a column for each of the past 5 years, and the right-hand column is the one that I gleaned from the flyer that Ginny mentioned. So you've had a 6-month ban in the past, it's 8 months in the past 2 years. You had 2 years of voluntary and 4 years or 3 years of mandatory. The 3 years in the middle of this period, the restrictions were, did not apply 2 days a week for lawn watering, for example. And indeed, you've gone from just a public ban on using public water unnecessarily to the same restrictions on private. Good. Now, I listed here the amount of rainfall that occurred at the Chatham Airport in the summer months, May to September. So 2020 was a dry year, only 7 inches of rain. Very dry last year at 3.4. Who knows what it's going to be this year? But notice 2023 and 2024 were actually wet summers. The typical Chatham summer rainfall is 11 inches. So only half of that in 2022, only a third of that in 2025, but quite a bit higher than that in 2024. So we tried to measure consumptive use. Remember I said before, this approach, these restrictions go towards consumptive use. Well, we measured them at the wastewater treatment plant in 2024, and the consumptive use was 14%. It was 23% last year. I'm dying to find out what it's going to be this year with more water use restrictions. Is it appropriate? Am I dreaming that we're going to try to find some correlation between the stringency of these water restriction programs and measured consumptive use? I'd love to think there's going to be something, but there's a ton of noise around these data.
Right.
If the baseline consumptive use for the nitrogen program is 10%, in 2024, those 40% more consumptive use as measured at the wastewater treatment plant in New Orleans than the standard. And there was much higher consumptive use in 2025, despite an 8-month ban on water use. So what would those consumptive use numbers have been
Right.
if the town had stepped back and not done anything? I think 2026 is going to be it's going to be good information to add to the mix, because one, you have, I think it's going to be a dry year as well, but two, you've got a much heightened public awareness of the issue from the work of this committee and others. So I'd advise that I'll do it if you'd like, but somebody needs to keep track of these numbers and have sort of cross-fertilization between the programs.
Sorry.
And as Mike's going over this, the important thing for people who might be listening or for the record in the future, consumptive use really is important because it is a factor in us determining kind of the net of what is the nitrogen load and reductions that we have to do. So this variability is, as Mike said, it's noise, but it would be nice to have a better proxy as opposed to this variability, right, Mike?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And a couple other quick comments before you go on to your next agenda item. I noticed that you guys were 23% consumptive use measures at the treatment plant. So that's the consumptive use in an area of town that may not be typical. And I think I've heard members of this committee say that they would expect higher consumptive use in more residential areas of town. Okay. Maybe. The Pleasant Bay Alliance meeting that George and I attended just this morning, Dan Pelletier of Harwich reported that he's estimated consumptive use in Harwich for the year 2025 is approximately 40%.
Wow.
So we're in the process of everybody getting more cognizant of what's important, data becoming available to analyze, and it's part of the adaptive management approach. You try something, you see if it works, you make it better next year, and you more quickly get to your expected goal. But to get to your interjection there, Kevin, if nitrogen removal requirements, the extent of the Orleans sewer system is really based on the assumption that there's 10% consumptive use. Well, what if it's actually 20%? Well, the allocation of responsibilities among the 4 towns was based on 10%. So if you're actually at 20, say, hypothetical, then you're taking on more responsibility than your neighbors if they're at 10. Because the septic nitrogen load is really less than what you would compute at 10%. Flipping that coin over, if you've got a sewer system and you want to get credit for it, and your actual consumptive use is, say, 5%, I'm going the other end of the spectrum, then you're not going to get as much credit for the sewering work as you would. So these aren't just hypothetical feel-good concepts. There's serious dollars and cents
Right.
in the town of Orleans getting on top of where the water's going, what it's used for, what watershed it's in, all of those things. So my answer to this sort of conundrum is you need to push for using actual consumptive use data, both in terms of how nitrogen load removal is shared among the towns, the next round of the watershed permit, and also you need to use the right numbers when you're telling DEP you think you've earned X kilogram per year.
Right, yeah. Jenny, go ahead.
Just going to ask, and maybe you said it, Mike, are our sister towns in the Pleasant Bay Alliance able to measure water use the way we are? And the follow-up to that is there a way, if they are or are not, is there a way to look at their restrictions? Because every town parses this a little differently, and try to figure out what we're all doing. What,
Good question, good question. So I mentioned that Dan Pelletier in Harwich reported 40%.
right,
Dan knows that his town's financial obligation was based on 10%. So he knows that he probably, so far has shouldered a higher percentage of the responsibility vis-a-vis Brewster, say, or Chatham, than he should have. And he's going to be adamant at try to estimate that. So how does he estimate it, to get to your question? Harwich collects wastewater, Meeting House Pond subwatersheds mostly now. They send it to Chatham. So it goes outside the Pleasant Bay watershed because Chatham's treatment plant is not in the watershed. But there is a fee structure. Harwich pays Chatham every quarter based on their sewage flow, not on their water use. So Dan has the ability, he's the town like Orleans that's going to have the ability to actually measure these numbers. Look at Brewster. Brewster's relying on golf course fertilizer management to meet its goals and doesn't anticipate sewers at all. So how are they going to measure anything? I don't think there is a way to do it if you're in Brewster. Chatham has a wastewater treatment plant. It's been around for a while. They probably are, their measurements are probably complicated by extraneous flows like infiltration inflow, but still, it's measurable. So I think of the 4 towns in the Alliance, 3 of them have the ability to keep track of these and estimate their own numbers, Ginny. 1 doesn't, and that could be a hurdle to modifying the permit, but still, I wanted to jump in with these slides because you guys are doing exactly the right thing. And I want you to look broadly and realize that all these things are connected.
They are. Judith?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So I had to leave this morning's meeting early, so I don't know, was Dan able to state why he thought that consumptive use was so out of line for Harwich?
Well, he reported the number. He sent it to me at 7:30 this morning.
Okay.
And I think he was a little bit apprehensive about saying too much about it until I had a chance to vet it.
Okay.
But it's
So-
on the table for.
I wonder if that, I wonder if that would include the National Golf Course? Or if
Ooh.
all of their is off private wells and they wouldn't be measuring that. But I would think that where they've got I mean, in the entirety of Harwich, it's not a huge percentage, but in that area that's now being considered in the sub-watershed for sewering, it's a huge percentage of the area of Harwich.
Well, that's something to check out.
Yep, I would definitely drill down on that.
Okay.
Yep. Gotta have green golf courses.
I-
Go ahead.
Just one, I'd hate to bring it up, but
No.
there's one other consumptive use that we're not, that hasn't been taken care of, and that's older homes with outdoor showers, which basically just go right into a rock bed or something underneath.
It's called a rinse station, technically.
That's in,
Yeah,
I just,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
those. on
wash
the-
stations?
It's a rinse
Rinse
station.
stations.
Rinse station.
It's a
Yeah,
rinse
Mike,
station.
I mean, if you
They're
want
not
it
supposed to be using
to
soap.
fit the
Yeah.
right definition, it's outdoor rinse stations.
It is a rinse station because you're not using soap and shampoo.
Yeah, if you call it a shower, then the plumbing
Oh, okay.
standards
Has to
come
go
in.
through,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That is a good point, and I would guess
Yeah, that's-
that in phase 3, it says no non-essential outside use at all, that might be included, but it's still the same amount of water. One goes
Yeah.
into the sewer system and one goes out
Yeah.
of the sewer system.
Very good point, John.
Interesting, though.
Yeah.
Some form of shower is kind of an essential.
Yeah,
use.
I
or
like,
we think so.
I like the rinse when you come in from the kayak and
Yeah.
better than in the house.
Right.
Mike, we'll get back to some of this because in your memo of March 16th, you certainly hit on that as well. But let's go to the next one if we could. Final preparations for annual town meeting. As we know, we've got a few articles embedded. One thing I can share in terms of within our charge is public outreach, and Roger McDaniel has been doing an awesome job relative to the upcoming, I think it's April 30th, Orleans Citizens Forum. Rich, myself, Judith is back up in case I get pulled away on other things. Did a half-hour Zoom yesterday. David Abel, who'll bring a counterpoint to it. I think it's going to go very well. I really do. Rich, I saw your slides this morning. If you're okay, I'm going to take your slide deck and just add a couple of mine so it just kind of flows without having to change technology. And so, and you got the town, what is it called, branding, all the sweeping look and so, but your slides look great. So that's one of the preps. Are there any other things that we need to do in terms of outreach? I mean, the town, if you go on the website, is listed, I think, 4 upcoming sessions. One very specific on the fire on Saturday, fire rescue station, but then there are 3 others that people can come to, whether at the COA, the library, or is the other one here? I think here. So there's 3 opportunities to, just, ask, detailed questions. So when you get to the floor of town meeting, I mean, certainly welcome to add comments, sway the vote, but it's nice to be informed as you bring those comments up.
And
The other
OPC
part
is-
too is remind us about podcasts and other types of things that are available, the sequencing or the timing and the availability of
Right.
those sorts of things.
Yeah, and Georgia, Rich, I know you've recorded them when we had the workshop last week, and I don't know, Peggy or Mia,
One was posted today.
under Town Meeting Central, are these podcasts on article specifics posted or continuing to be posted?
Some of them are. That's an Amanda question. She
Okay.
decides what's on the page.
Great, thank you, Mia. So that's, Town Meeting Central will have not only text, but also links to little snippets that are article-specific podcasts, so you can listen to, Rich presenting on wastewater, or, pick your item. But that was the nice thing about our workshop is, between Amanda, Mia, and media staff, they're putting these little snippets together that are article-specific.
So OPC will be doing a mailer to all homes again. That should hit mailboxes the Thursday before town meeting. But I also just got the Exit 89 heads up.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so helpful and excellent. I mean, it's just very clear about if you want more information on these key things, this is, this is the open house, this is the whatever. Really good, very
Yeah,
helpful.
if folks have not subscribed to Exit 89, I mean, I just
Excellent.
reference, before this little blast that went out, which is, coming, the previous write-up they did about history of Orleans, it was just a chock-full read of, I just went line by line as soon as I opened it, because it was just such a wonderful write-up, and they do a great job. And it, again.
And there will be another issue, the usual week before town meeting, there will be focused on the warrant articles.
Deep
There'll be
dive.
another one coming.
Awesome work.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the wastewater planning and projects, what to expect at town meeting, as the podcast was released last week, so it is
Nice.
on.
So that's out there. So I think the best thing too is, have your ears open between now and town meeting. And if anything bubbles up that you think we should anticipate, making sure, reading the motion, to like put a little reminder to people at the point. One thing that Kim has encouraged us as select board members is, she said basically, you have got to speak up at town meeting. She basically told us that during a little review that we had, and she's right. I mean, we're bringing these articles forward. Some of them are, generated through committee level, but we need to own them and say to people why we support them.
And maybe just remind us, I think, having gone to that meeting, a select board member would basically introduce the article, and then where appropriate, a town staff member might then elaborate and explain a particular article, and then open the floor.
Yeah, and you'll see that right on the slide. So, for example, the article on, it's called wastewater management implementation, I think, Rich?
Phase 4?
Plan implementation. So again, in the text of that, it does say preliminary design for phase 4, but we wanted people to know this is a broader bucket, if you will. But right on the slide, the motions by whoever's going to read it from the select board, but then
Staff.
literally staff support will say Rich's name, and he'll be right in the wings if a question comes up, because it shows that we really are organized, and I think it'll help things move along smoother. I think the best thing is having 14 articles in the consent agenda. That is actually the best thing. We can bundle those up, but again, if someone wants to take one out, they're more than welcome to do that and have it considered separately. So I think we're good for a town meeting, at least from wastewater.
And remind us as well, clarify, so what's the date today, and when's the Phase 3 bid opening is the 28th? So,
Yeah, this is important, Rich. Let us know, because I did see a supplement go out the other day on the bid. Was that just?
Yeah, it was an addendum. It was a
Addendum.
second addendum that just went out. So bid opening is April 28th. We'll be opening the construction bids for Phase 3. This is important because it ties to Article 26 in the town meeting warrant, which is a contingency article for additional construction funds for that project. Depending on how the bids come in, if it works within the existing appropriation, we won't act on Article 26, but should we need additional funding to move that project into construction, we will request it at town meeting at that article. So that's the date, 28th.
Yeah.
and then also, there's a ballot question related to that as well. So at town meeting, if we don't need 26, then it gets postponed indefinitely, I believe.
Would,
Yep.
but again, the ballot question still is there.
Still there, and you can
people-
either vote or not vote, but
People
it's
likely to vote,
matter,
and
okay.
it'll
just clarifying process. Thank you.
turn into dust in the wind. But, Rich, one thing I'm thinking is, after bid opening, and I'm very optimistic, I always try to be, so say it's under, again, through Town Meeting Central, it might be good just to get a very short blast to say, bid opening, we're under bid, fit with the appropriation previously approved, and just tell people, Article 26.
It's 26, Article 26.
And we would be able to exit 89,
Get that message
get
out.
the word out, and for sure check wording
Yeah.
with you.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's something we're absolutely going to do. Just note that it's going to take us a couple of days to go through the bids. The bid packets are so extensive, to go through them, to verify the numbers, to verify the quantity, to make sure that the actual bids,
Yeah.
before we can make a determination that the existing appropriation is enough. So I suspect probably the first week in May, we'll be able to publish something ahead of the May 11th town meeting. So it'll take a couple of days, but that's our plan.
Yeah. You getting any sense of a number of interested bidders out there?
Certainly, the plan holders list is quite extensive, so a lot of people have taken out the documents. Some of them are filed, potential bids, sub-bids for the contractor, but, a lot of interest in the project. And I'm hopeful, too. I think that there's a good market for sewer construction. I think I mentioned at another meeting, maybe Board of Water Sewer Commissioners, that the town of Chatham just went out for another phase of their construction of sewer. They had an estimated project cost of $15 million. They were expecting a $15 million bid, and the bids came in at $11 million. So the lowest bid was $11 million. The next highest bid was right around $15 million. So they can swing quite large, even in that amount. I mean, that's a 33% swing there between the first and second bid. So I'm pretty confident. We have good numbers, well laid out, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, excellent. Good. Exciting time. It really is.
So in the fine print, in both Articles 25 and 26, the motions both refer to the Board of Public Works. Who is that? And the answer I got back from Mark Reel is the attorneys provided that language, but
Oh,
Well, there is no Board of Public Works.
yeah.
thank you.
That's one
You-
we haven't,
it's
that's
you.
one we haven't combined or gotten rid of yet.
So
Yeah.
next time, if we need to do it, we'll fight back with
Board
the
of Water and-
attorneys
Well,
and
thanks for
say-
bringing that to my attention, because that's something certainly I'll talk to them about and just say it doesn't exist. We have Board of Water Sewer Commissioners, we have this committee here, but we don't have a Board of
Select
Public Works.
board.
We have a department.
We have a parks.
So basically, it's part of a sentence that says the Select Board, Board of Public Works, or other appropriate local body or official is
There we go.
authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement. So there's plenty of others.
Wiggle room.
Yeah.
So, but, I tried to get Mark Reel to do something about it, and it didn't happen. Yeah.
It was the lawyer's boilerplate.
His out was that the attorneys gave it to him, so.
This would be a good test. Someone bring this up at town meeting. I mean, it would.
Well, that's my point. If somebody brings it up at
We're
town
ready for
meeting,
it. Yeah.
that's the sort of thing I worry about, and we don't need, yeah, thank you.
There was one other, and it was capital-related. Lynn, you probably picked up on it. Way in the back, I think it was pages 74, 75. A 2 and a 4 got separated. So
Oy.
it was a capital item, and it's supposed to be, I think, 2,400,000. And the 2 is way over by the text, and the 4 starts here. So you'll
Or
find it.
sometimes, it's on a different line, and it's
Yes,
like,
yeah.
a head
This is what
smacker.
happens a lot of times. You have to read the PDF. If you've got the thing in a Word document and you think you hit the button PDF, you still have to read it before it's finalized, because these applications
Format's
don't always talk well to each other.
Right.
All right, I think we're good. So I was just really pleased with this TMDL compliance in Meeting House Pond, Mike, because not only did you segue to it with Ginny and Mary's thing on the restrictions for water use, but hit very heavily on the consumptive use section on page 3 of the memo. So I think anything you might want to go over on this with us?
Okay, I've got some slides, if you don't mind.
Please, yeah, so what Mike's bringing up is supportive of the March 16th, 2026 memo on TMDL compliance and Meeting House Pond sub-abatement.
So by way of intro, at the last meeting, I presented to you, without the preceding memo like I usually do, but where I stood in my look at Meeting House Pond. And I finished that evaluation and summarized it in the memo. So we talked kind of in general terms, had Tim check a couple of numbers that I had to modify. So what you're seeing is the official version. And these are the slides that I presented to the Pleasant Bay Alliance this morning. Because, as you may recall, the apparent problem with Meeting House Pond TMDL compliance was actually put on a list of things that the Alliance would investigate as it moved forward in a way to formalize a protocol for actually giving credits for sewering. So it's both an Orleans and a Pleasant Bay issue. I presented this morning. George was there. I got the same slides here, but I won't go through the detail I did this morning. But to put things in perspective, the Mass Estuaries Project, MEP report from 2006, using 2003 data, estimated the amount of nitrogen load coming from septic systems in Meeting House Pond was 1,871 kilograms per year. And then looking at the water quality model, it said, boy, you need to remove all of that. So the TMDL says remove 100% of the septic load, which then was 1,871. The Alliance paid SMAST, UMass Dartmouth, to update the watershed loads and through a SNAP, Southeast New England Program EPA grant in 2023, and it showed a significant increase, 14% higher, 2,127. And when the watershed permit was expanded or updated just recently to also include allowances for growth since the original work, pushed the requirement up to 2,265. Well, I look back on my notes, and when we first saw these numbers, Tim and I were using 4.5 kilograms per year per parcel served. That only gets you to 1,400 kilograms. So that raised the question, whoa, we got a problem here. Let's investigate this. So that initial, emphasize initial, not the final conclusion, was based on the rule of thumb, the placeholder we were using, and it indicated, hey, you're going to be 25% short. So that's why this got looked at. And as I showed the Alliance folks this morning, here are the reasons that you guys adopted there's reasons to do the water use database. Here's the statistics that I gave to let the other 3 towns know that this is rigorous. It includes 5 years worth of data. The parcel counts matched. Private wells are included at 159 gallons per day. The freshwater pond hydrology is consistent with the MEP. And the good news is by the year 2029, you'll have a 10-year database if you keep updating as you are. So I made the case this morning that this is not a back of the envelope exercise. This is the way it should be done. As detailed and comprehensive and as the original MVP work, and I would argue much more transparent and checkable in my terms. So good news there. So if you take the AECOM number, it's the same slide but with a new line. AECOM for the 5 years centered on 2023 is 1,888. So if there were no further growth, you would have met by 5 homes worth the TMDL. So my initial conclusion is we got a problem here. That was based on the placeholder that we now know is not appropriate for Meeting House Pond. And the conclusion that I'm making now is you're on track to meeting the TMDL.
Right,
So that
exactly.
red flag I raised earlier, pardon me for being early,
No, this is good.
is not the case. So
Ginny's
and
got a quick question, Mike. Go ahead.
Sure.
So, Mike, if we go forward, when we go forward with Phase 4, we will have sewered 100% of the parcels in the Meeting House Pond watershed. And we keep revisiting and truth testing our numbers, but if say, for instance, we get another set of data that comes back and says that we have to remove more for growth, we have no more to remove. So how do you
Great question. Great question. And this is one of the
This is-
details I want.
I think
wasn't
I
gonna go
know,
into.
but this is actually for people who are listening at home.
So when George and I worked on the new watershed permit, the one that was just issued in February, we used the SNAP estimate as a baseline. We took for granted the fact there had been a 14% growth up to that point in time, and we added 6% more to get 2265. In retrospect, now that I have the 5 years, now 6 years almost from AECOM, I think the 2027 SNAP estimate is high.
Right.
So therefore, we've committed to more growth than I think we're gonna have. So, and if you sewer all of the homes that exist now in Meeting House Pond, you will eliminate 1,888 kilograms per year. And that's not just contract phase two, it's what you're also gonna do in 4. So how much more do you expect beyond that, 1,888? And if it's appreciable, yeah, then that raises another issue. How are you gonna deal with that?
And George,
Maybe with a,
Yeah, and George, you've got decades of history in terms of tracking growth, and wouldn't you agree 14% is way out of bounds?
Yeah, by a factor of 3 or 4 likely. But I think it's also worth noting, although it's a duh, every parcel in the Meeting House Pond watershed was accommodated for future sewer connections. So while that water use will go up, it will all be in the denominator of sewered and removed water use.
I think is what was throwing me. I was following this up until I thought, well, going forward in the future on Meeting House Pond, there can't be growth in terms of effluent into the ground because the entire thing is sewered.
They're all connected.
So, yeah, everything is connected, current and future. So if it
I think this kind of discussion
quadruples.
comes into play in future phases where you're not sewering 100% of the area.
Right.
We need to think a little bit more sophisticated on how much growth will there be, and is the system wide enough, the network enough to accommodate that so we meet our requirements?
Well, and not that anyone's listening, but just to all of us, that is exactly how, and if Tim was on, he'd, probably be glad to hear the reminder, but that's how we really looked at phase 3. Because again, we had a whole study area, the big Sharpie marker, but we really did hone in on which parcels did not make sense to tie in because they didn't bring the value.
Even with future growth.
Even with future growth considered, yeah. So I think that's what we're learning in terms of the future phase iteration on how we look at this.
And phase 3 and really all of our future
Right.
phases are going to be even more complicated because of the fact that Meeting House Pond was, I believe, our only sub-watershed
100%, yeah.
that is 100% Orleans. Everything else, we have some additional contributions. So there was a lot of work in phase 3 around how much is Brewster contributing
Right.
or not, and what might that growth be as well as our own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Complicated.
All right, Mike,
So-
you always
Good,
stimulate.
good question. So, this is I think I've shown this to you before, but I did a little bit of updating. So the intention here is to look at specific parameters across 5 years. And you'll see that here's the data for 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and there's the 5-year average. So my pitch to the Alliance and to the town of Orleans is, don't worry about any one year,
Right.
but have a long enough database that the ups and the downs average out. So whereas the TMDL was set on a water use 20 years ago at 20.9 million gallons a year, the most recent 5-year average is 21.13.
Not bad.
Pretty damn close. So
Yep.
the TMDL was set at 1871, and if you sewer everybody and you don't allow any vacant lots with new septic systems,
Right.
to get to George's point, then you're at 1888.
Yep.
You need to be concerned about somebody deciding that more fertilizer is good, because that would add to the load that you'd have to accommodate. But I think you're in pretty good shape here, and that was the essence of my pitch to the Alliance this morning. And if you look at the bottom of this slide, Tim and I started the original sewer layout based on 4.5 kilograms per year per parcel. Well, in this particular watershed, it's 6.2. So you can see where, where the cause of the initial, perhaps unwarranted concern was. So, and it's funny how quickly we can react. Since this meeting started, I got an email from one of Tim's cohorts to tell me what the water use was in 2025 for Meeting House Pond. And
Okay,
I can't fit it on the
We are a
slide, but
stimulating group, aren't we? This is,
so
the things that get us excited, this is
go ahead,
impressive.
Mike.
if it was 19.23 last year, in 2024, in 2025, it was only 18.6.
Wow.
Wow.
So that would bring the average down, but are we gonna just worry about 1 year?
No.
But look at what it was in 2020.
Right.
What, was that maybe the COVID year?
Gee, well,
Yes.
I think
So, but that was a short-term
yeah, the
trend,
COVID
so.
number, right.
more hand washing.
More
You know,
My
one thing,
message here-
People more hand
one thing too, Mike, and I think, we've got a general increased awareness of water use, and you note it in your memo of, consumer behavior, I think, added with the benefit of the ion water. I think everyone around this table has it. And I have to say, I have looked at it at least once a month on our properties, and it causes you to take some actions, whether it be, be sure to shut off the water when you're brushing your teeth, all that good stuff. But also, there are, reasons to explain ups and downs, and the application gives you that. It really is helpful. So embedded behind the water use in millions of gallons per year, if an individual wanted to take some more ownership, look at the app, look at your patterns, and you'll actually say, gee, I didn't know I did that, because sometimes the lines go way up, and then once you move past a month, it settles back down to 100, and, in my case, like, we're usually 199, 200 a day. And there have been some days that have been like, what were we doing?
I can tell
So my-
that I have grandchildren who come in July. My water use goes sky high.
So one of my messages here is, I think a 5-year period is good. You're gonna grow it annually. But don't get hung up on any 1 year.
Right.
But look at the numbers and try to figure out what happened. So I mentioned COVID might have an influence here. And it's not on the slide, but what I just got from AECOM was 18.5 for 2025. But guess what? That was the driest summer for decades. So why was the water use low in 2025 in this watershed? Because people didn't come to the Cape, that people took longer vacations? No, it's because these calculations are based on 10% consumptive use.
Mike, I whispered to Judith, they know betterment calculations were coming, so they,
You may have.
I mean, really?
Betterment
So-
behavior, right?
Exactly.
So I wanted to convince the other 3 towns that this isn't just a fly-by-night exercise here. And I said, let's look at the reasonableness of these calculations. Let's look at wet years and dry years. Let's make sure the parcel counts match what's done in the past. Make sure we get private wells accounted for. Look at other Orleans subwatersheds for comparability, and look at the year-to-year variability. And I gave you these data last time, but let me just jump ahead and say, here are the reasons why I think 5 years of data show that Orleans is on the right track. One, the 5 years of water consumption is pretty close to what it was when the TMDA was set. The per parcel water use in Meeting House Pond is consistent with other subwatersheds. It's, if you look at the period of 5 years, the average summer rainfall was up and down, but on average, it was pretty damn close to the 25-year average of summer rainfall at the Chatham Airport. And I think an important thing here is that these data are based on brand-new set of water meters townwide. So modern technology and the ability to people to track where they are. That adds to me some credibility to that 5-year period. And if you look at it, even though there was some ups and downs during the period, the variability, pretty small standard deviation. The data are pretty tight. So all of those reasons tell me to say, yes, this was a checklist item for the Alliance for Orleans to show this. We learned a lot. We're going to continue to learn a lot. Everybody's now up to date on what the terms are. And everybody's now going to pay a whole lot more attention to consumptive use, probably led by Harwich, but I hope Orleans is close behind. So there you go. I'm pleased. I think we can say accomplished.
So Mike, one thing, as you noted in the opening of the memo is, this is one of the 9 tasks within the revised permit to formalize a protocol on computing the nitrogen removal. Assuming this is from the Alliance and the towns saying done, do we automatically transmit this to TEPs to keep them informed, or do we just hold this and file an annual report or something like that? I'm feeling the former. It might be good just to share with DEP.
There were 2 DEP staffers on the Pleasant Bay Alliance
good.
meeting, so they're aware of it. We don't have a formal requirement to file anything on a regular basis right now. But as you know, Kevin, Mike has recommended that every time a sewer phase is completed, that we document that, send that to DEP. They have all the numbers and the statistics on it.
And we already have done that. I know Rich left, but we've done that for phase 2 already?
No, not for phase 2 yet.
Because I think, Mike, you advised us, once the order to connect from the Board of Health goes out, we should notify DEP. We feel we're taking the credits right now. So
Yep.
George is making notes. We should make sure we communicate that to DEP.
Yeah. And I had given a draft to George some time ago on what a brief letter to DEP might encompass. And it hasn't been done for phase 1 yet, has it?
It has not gone up to DEP yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
It's on George's
So-
list. Great.
One elaboration on your question, Kevin, is
Yep.
that task of formalizing a protocol for sewering has in it not just reconciliation of an apparent problem in Meeting House Pond, but one of the towns has suggested we look at nitrogen loading in water supply recharge areas differently than it was done before. I don't support that, but that's one of the things we're going to have to address at the Alliance.
Okay.
Another is, we're going to continue to use MEP accounting, water use, 10% consumptive use, and 26.25 milligrams per liter. That's another part, probably the biggest part of this protocol discussion. And we started to get into that this morning, I think, with some good healthy discussion. And I think we can show yet more overlap in all the things this committee does in your next agenda item related to IA. So I'll keep my powder dry for that.
Yeah, and I know you were attuned when Judith mentioned the golf course in Harwich, but that really could
just-
explain some of that. That's just a high consumptive use number, but it's.
Likely, yeah.
All right, so next item, as Mike just mentioned, is IA systems. Judith, thanks for suggesting putting this on. John Nelson, I don't know if you might want to be attuned to this, or whether you know about any of this data, because I have a number of questions, so whether you can answer them or not, or maybe take them back, but.
try to answer
Okay, John's got them. So what we've got in the packet is, and I'll tell you guys, I did not realize we had this number of innovative alternative systems.
Now, remember, this list is only the contracts to maintain those systems, okay? So, I mean, there might be one out there that has no contract to maintain it, but it's just operating on its own. But these come in as a monitoring exercise.
Through a
to-
condition you put on
That we put onto
approval.
that, yeah, for the approval of these.
And these are different flavors of IA systems. This
Yes.
is not only just one, but a variety, right?
There are 7 or 8 different manufacturers, and I'll tell you, I did a little analysis, and they are all over the
All
board
over the
in terms of performance.
Right.
And
And some of them are for single-family homes, and others are for condominium complexes. Okay, so you have to be aware of
Careful,
that, too,
yeah.
okay? So be very careful about
Yeah.
it. And by the way, I also did some research on these. And within phases 1, 2, and 3, those that are listed, the properties that are listed that are going to be on the sewer system, there are a total of 13 of those out of the 54 that are listed here. So those systems will they will go onto the sewer system and disconnect
The IA.
the IA system.
So have those, I don't know if we can generalize, but I know if they were installed relatively recently, they could request from Board of Health
For a 10-year.
a 10-year extension.
Right, there aren't that many of
Okay.
those. Okay, in fact, we've had a couple of these come in, the ones for the condominium complexes, and say, our system's working perfectly fine. Why do we need to connect to the sewer? And we says, it's written into your
Yes,
contract.
yeah.
Into your contract.
When we
Yeah.
put this in, that you will connect to the sewer system once it becomes part.
So,
those
so the one quick clarifier that I would also add is while they are different manufacturers and to some extent different designs, these are all nitrogen-reducing IA septics. They are not urine diversion or composting.
right.
So just so that people understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the thing that struck me was, you know, I put red around the FAST and the BioClears, FAST because of the number. We got 51 of them in town.
Right.
But the BioClear, I mean, to me, they're not performing. I mean, they're not. I mean, you've got a mean and median, which means how tight, you know, the average or the statistical is. They're over 21.
Okay, well, one other thing that you should, you'll have to look at the address.
Yeah.
Right, you have to split up, because some of these, you'll see, have been monitored 4 times a year. Others have been monitored twice a year, and others have been monitored only once a year.
It's good
So-
you point that out, because
Because there are 55 properties listed, okay, in total.
well, if you go to the second page, John, on that,
Yeah.
look at the Bennett, who's the operator for this RSF system on 17 Herringbrook.
Right.
You had wacky
110.
numbers, I'd say, on October 2nd.
Yep. And still wacky.
They went
numbers.
back out on the 8th and still not anywhere near where we want.
Right.
And then they came back on the reading before that. I'm reading the dates, July 9th, and they were down to 1.4. So
Yeah.
I think that reflects the seasonality of these systems, that they do not like variability.
But, so another question that I've got, and forgive me for diving into the weeds here, some of these systems are known to work the best because of basically the leaching component. Does this measure under the leaching component for actual results, or does this measure what's coming out of the house? Because that's where I got hung up when I had it.
It's measuring what is actually leaching. From what I can remember of our discussions in
Pre-leach or post-leach?
post-leach. It's supposed to be,
Post-leach.
you're supposed to be by the way, the measurement is 19 parts per, so the operative number is 19. That's what, any of the people that are on an IA system will tell you is what they're shooting for. Now, it is seasonal, and these are biological systems.
Right.
Which is-
So you have to keep them going
Right.
all year.
Oh,
And you have to give
the
them
base,
something
right.
to work on.
And
all year.
they want to be warm. When they get cold, they don't work.
Right, so there's a lot of variability between the winter numbers and the
There we
summer
go,
numbers.
and you can see that.
And you can
Yeah.
see it in the data.
Bob,
And I think integrating this, I imagine it's in the process to integrate this into the water consumption database, because we're looking at concentrations and not actual nitrogen mass discharge.
Right.
And a lot of these homes, could be seasonally, in seasonal use.
exactly.
And in my case, we have a shared system with 2 homes,
Okay,
and there's 2 permanent year-round residents.
so it keeps it happy.
Barely, because, we tend to travel a bit, too.
Okay.
So, then it's just, could go through a month or 2 of
No
not being
activity.
used.
And that's why we insist on them doing it quarterly for a period of time before we'll give them the dispensation to do it only twice a year.
Well, I'll tell you oh, go ahead, Mike, yes.
Yeah, a couple of comments. First of all, Is this a Board of Health, John Smith project?
Yes.
Yeah, nice job. I hadn't looked at the data in any detail, but I did run some averages and looked at what's in the effluent of these. In a typical exercise to estimate the watershed septic load, you would take all of the people on traditional Title V systems and value or assign to their water use 26 milligrams per liter as the impact on the groundwater. So you would then say, okay, but just a minute now, maybe half a dozen of these in this sample subwatershed have IA systems. So you wouldn't value them at 26, you'd value them at some lower number. And if you didn't have any information, if you didn't have information at all, you'd use 19. But if you, like in Orleans, you don't use 19, you use 35.
No, I
The
can't.
grand average effluent concentration is 35 milligrams per liter. So several points this illustrates. One is, these aren't doing anything for you if you use the 26 as a milestone. Two, if you look at, some of these, I assume, were put in to justify additional bedrooms.
Exactly.
That is correct.
That's the majority.
So is the requirement, is the deal, you get a bedroom, if you put this in and tell us how it's operating
Right.
every.
Correct.
Or is it, you get that bedroom only if it's operated for 5 years and it meets a certain standard?
No.
No, you have the
No.
bedroom. It's not like you can take the bedroom away. There's no- But we,
So,
$1,000? Gone.
John could probably recite, John Smith, the conditions, because I've watched this Board of Health meeting, and they're pretty stringent.
Right.
You know,
But this is another piece that I think people tend to forget is the performance of these systems is so reliant on behavior. And so people, and this is something that back to the early days of George Heufelder and his experimental station, he repeated it over and over again, that where people are doing this because they really want to do the right thing and reduce their nitrogen, they tend to perform really quite well. Where they're doing it because they want another bedroom, they're sort of not. And so you sort of say, well, a toilet is a toilet is a toilet. You can't use bleach, period. You can't use disinfecting products, period. You can't use harsh chemicals. You know, you have to keep a constant flow. People aren't willing to change their behavior to have these work well. And so, to Mike's point, maybe what we should do is require that it be in place for 5 years and functioning well before you're granted that extra bedroom. But where you basically get the bedroom and then it's,
well, I mean, these people that are getting the extra bedroom are not the property owners. I have sat in the meetings as the liaison. They're Eastwood Company's representative. It's a spec build. It gets transferred on within the $3.9 million price. And no one has a clue about operating and maintaining. In fact, as you can see, you know, Bennett and Sigmund and Aquapoint, they're all the people that, you know,
They'd
have the
show up at the
contracts.
meetings.
Right,
yeah, but Ginny knows that we've had many conversations with the engineers at Conservation Commission meetings around this. And they will tell us that these systems that perform best, these new, they call them layer cake leaching field, the town offered $10,000 grants for 3 years to get people to put these
not a
in.
taker.
No takers, and the engineers tell us it's because they take up too much of the property, too much space, and so people are opting out. So I don't think it's entirely true that people don't have input into this. I just think that
Okay.
motivation becomes a very, very big part of it.
But I'd say too, if you look at the singular, I had not heard of these, in the RSF. I mean, we've got low numbers, so don't take this to the bank, but you had 5 singulars, 3 RSFs. I mean, those numbers look really good. So there is, you know,
there are some that work
but
properly.
again,
Yeah.
if you go, like you said, John, you go to the address
Yep.
and you look at, are they year-round, you know, this, but this is great. And again, John, looking to you in terms of the Health Department office, I mean, this is what, 56, 80, there's like 100 of these. That means quarterly reports are coming in for someone in the office you work in. Who goes through these quarterly? I mean, and do letters go out when there's anomalies, or?
I'd have to defer back to Alex.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sure who handles that.
But, you know, from a Board of Health, you might want to ask, like, because as we talk about, oh, we could do more IA systems, you've heard me, you know, have concerns about staff burden. We doing double and triple of these as
Are
a,
these unique, 100 unique addresses?
No. Yeah, there are
some of them-
seven, there are 50, there are 54 unique addresses.
Thank you, John.
but there's data associated with each of them that,
That means they go out every quarter.
every quarter.
Or every,
Right.
every twice a year.
Whatever was agreed to.
Right.
Typically, it's
I
twice
just
a year.
get concerned about the staff burden and,
Absolutely.
I think it's a data submittal and
Right,
an
it's a
annual
data- it's a-
report.
You know,
When there's
see
an
the
annual
guys that
report.
say
Right,
operator?
right.
The operator is the one who submits the reports.
Right.
And if they're too over the top, typically, they have to come back before us at a meeting, at a public meeting, and explain why the numbers are so out of
so
whack.
the FAST system at 67.5.
Comes back, and we go through the numbers, and then they give us explanations. They'll say, well, the house hasn't been occupied for the last 6 months, and therefore, we have to go in and reevaluate how we're, rejigger how the system's being used.
Mike?
Kevin, to your point, I mean, this is, you know, however, whoever ends up having to look at this, there's two stops in town, right? Because there's, the health department gets the information.
right.
And then that has to be somehow translated to somebody to get it to health, to the committee, to say, this is a problem, or you have to come and be. So, yeah, the exponential number of people having to touch this, and then sort of the feeding it to us or to somebody else about what are the implications of the data that's coming in, because you're looking at it, you know, obviously, it comes in as one address, one problem, but then, aggregating it to begin to say there's a policy issue here. So there's a thing.
So think about this, just one data point.
We're all ears.
Okay, think about it. This is only 54 unique addresses out of 5,000 that are here in town, right?
Right.
So it's less than 1% of the households in the town that have this. Think of what would happen if we had everyone with an IA system.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
in this.
Okay.
Think about what, not just the cost of putting them in, but the cost of actually doing the monitoring and the fee systems and all of the other things that would happen.
Absolutely.
Welcome to losing our Pleasant Bay watershed permit.
Can I ask a question that pertains to what he said?
Go ahead, Jen, I didn't hear.
Oh, John,
Yeah,
if somebody is compelled to put in an IA system
right.
by the state,
Right.
and they don't have any space in which to put one, does that mean that the house is condemned?
No, there is always space. We've put them in.
Always,
We have,
always space, like
so
hundreds.
far, I've seen quarter-acre lots. I mean, the teeniest ones that we have in town.
Because you can layer
Yeah,
the.
there are
leaching
ways
fields.
to maintain and put it in.
Okay.
You might not have a reserve, what's called a reserve
There we
field.
go. And you can,
And you can, because most homes have not just their own septic system.
Right, they have a
but they have to put in a reserve system.
Title
So
V.
so you might not have that capability, but there is, and usually it's the reserve system space that we use in order to put the IA
I
system.
would say, best example, if you're ever in Dennis, Lower County Road, people have put these systems in their front yard, in their
And
mounds.
they're mounted.
Mounted.
On Lower Road in.
Oh, right, with the mound.
In Brewster, yeah.
Kevin,
The
Mike's
other
hand up.
thing is, before somebody goes and plays with this, 18 West Road can come off that list.
They are connected, yes.
They are
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, the phase ones are, there were 3 phase ones, by the way, and they should all be disconnected.
Yeah.
Excellent. Mike, go ahead, please.
Yeah, a couple of quick observations. There's no data shown on influent
Right.
nitrogen, what's coming out of the house. But let me just take you through a very crude calculation. I'm gonna bet that maybe you get 50% removal on these systems if you were to get the influent data. So if it's 30 going out, that means it's probably 60
Coming in.
leaving the house.
Yeah.
Well, what are you reading for concentrations at the wastewater treatment plant? 60, 65? Okay, so what are you getting for credits if you use the Mass Estuaries Project accounting system? 26.25. So this is yet more evidence that actual nitrogen concentrations in wastewater effluent on Cape Cod are much higher than the MEP report assumed and the TNVLs are based on. And that will be a very large part of this exercise for the Alliance to decide how to do the next round of permit changes in Pleasant Bay.
Mike, we were using 40 to 45% as a benchmark for how much I thought that there would be nitrogen removal based upon these systems and the technology.
Well, I'm doing just a back of the envelope
Right.
calculation.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what the removals are, but
Yeah.
I can look at this and say, hey, here's more evidence that what's leaving in the house is closer to 60
Yeah,
or 70
Exactly.
than it is 26. So
Yeah.
again, but I'd love to see the data and I'd analyze it for you. But the other conclusion is that if you look at the form of nitrogen, nitrogen in the effluent is either ammonia, nitrate, or organic nitrogen. And there's data here that would allow you to compute all of those. And I look at the fact that almost half of what's going out is ammonia. And that means that these systems are not nitrifying. That ammonia should be next to zero. If there's any nitrogen left, it should be nitrate. So broad conclusion, without having stepped on any one of these lots, is that in general, these are not operating well at all.
There we go.
You have that much ammonia in the effluent, your basic fundamental process of nitrification isn't working effectively. And you got to fix that before you could fix the second step. And this is a mess in terms of good performance on wastewater systems.
And when I recall, and you please correct me here, Mike, but I recall that with the Pleasant Bay Alliance, when there were all those discussions with Brewster in its earlier, before they switched to looking at golf course fertilization reduction, they were looking at possibly IA systems for little areas of Pleasant Bay, and looking at different ones and talking to the state about how they would accept these to meet their needs. And I believe that they were saying that they didn't want to accept anything more than 10. And most of these systems were doing well to do 19. And so that was, my recollection, one of the reasons that Brewster said, we're not pursuing this. Because what could be worse than requiring all of your residents to put in
Property by
these
property.
very expensive, property-destroying systems, only to turn around 10 years from now and say,
No.
tear it out, that we're not going to accept that, you got to do something else. Just
So I just highlighted one property in Judith's neighborhood
Hoey Lane.
with one of the BioClears that is
That's
just
very much a
not-
seasonal property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But, Mike, if you do look at the data, and it's, just a one snapshot of 25, but the overall mean is 16. So if you've got 16 milligrams per liter.
Which column were you going into?
I was using the effluent nitrate.
Yeah, okay, well, that's my point. It's total nitrogen you're concerned about.
Right.
And that's
it
the
is.
sum of nitrate, nitrite, ammonia,
Oh, my
and a
God.
portion of the TK.
If I did the analysis on that, we would not want to report that.
So that 19 or that 10 needs to be applied to the total nitrogen,
nitrogen.
not to the,
Nitrate.
okay, so how do we like the BioClear at 240?
40.
Holy Hannah. I think somebody poured a sack of fertilizer down the toilet.
Well, or it could be, the cleaning products,
Well, there you go.
People,
There's that too.
don't know that,
Yep.
gotta clean those sponges every week with bleach in the sink, right? I mean, this is behavior change.
This is
but
behavior
That is
change.
not in your condition, when you make these conditions.
No.
You don't tell people.
Well,
So
we-
when you wash dishes, you,
Well, we do actually go through it with them, what you can and can't do
okay,
in an IA system, just so that they're on record as saying that this is what is possible and what isn't.
And we do that with the sewer use rules and regulations
Right.
too.
Right.
Or, you cannot throw Pampers down a toilet
Right.
and expect the grinder pump to operate.
To grind them.
Right.
Boy, common sense
But
is
you
in
should
short
have to
supply.
So don't we love data? I really do. This is
Uh,
really good stuff, so.
This was very helpful, and thank you, because
Yeah.
I had originally requested this, because I kept hearing, these systems don't work, but it was like, well,
Show me the.
by
data.
how much do they not
Yeah.
work, and how many aren't working? So this is very helpful.
George?
So the follow-up item I have is to check with the health agent on what is the standard follow-up when the county reports this information to the health department and it's not in compliance. Is it automatic? How does it go? I just want to follow that up.
Could we put that on as a future agenda for next week? And then, Mike, not to have you put hours and hours, but you might want to do a quick, analysis on this, just for a discussion. I don't think we need a memo on it, but, we're going to put this again on our next meeting, which will be after town meeting, I think, May
May 14?
14th. So you got some time, but it would be good to get your insight so we better understand the meaning of the data and what we do with it. And I know John
Okay.
in particular at the Board of Health, but, as Judith mentioned, and Ginny, Conscom, has some thoughts on this when they have to permit. So it all helps.
I think it's something we use as mitigation often.
Exactly.
No, go ahead. But it's also, I forgot what I was going to say. It's also important in the discussion of alternatives analysis for sewering to know exactly
Right.
that these are not perfect systems.
Right.
They are and not anywhere near as efficient as removing the nitrogen.
Excellent. All right, so we got some, one thing, Mike, only back on your TMDL memo, very minor. If you've got the memo in front of you, page 2, the top paragraph, very last line, where it says about 10 years later, that the MEP estimates, I think you mean then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did Lynn slip you a note on that?
No, I did that all on my own.
Bless your heart.
I get wrapped up in the town meeting stuff, you don't even want to hear about it, Mike, trust me.
Board of Public Works, yes. Approval of meeting minutes of April 9th, 2026.
Move approval.
With the
one
minor
change.
tweak,
Minor tweak.
minor tweak.
Added,
What we did on the minor tweak, if you were not on the list of handouts, we just clarified that the email of 3/26/2026 was actually from Charlie Carlson, just to clarify, that it wasn't from one of our dearly beloved consultants.
Okay,
Move approval as tweaked.
okay.
Second?
Second, all in favor? Aye, unanimous? Great. Thanks again, Karen. Future items, Pleasant Bay IMA, final scope items on Mill Pond study, that'll be great. And we just did add a follow-up on the IA systems.
Can
And
I
we
add
might want
something? Yeah, go ahead.
to do a post-town meeting? Yeah,
we probably should put fertilizer rules regs
okay.
on here so that we remember.
What aspect of that?
Just moving forward with,
We'll just list it as a future agenda item.
yeah,
gotcha.
future agenda item. And could we also put in a report for John Nelson on the number
I
of,
can't hear you, Jenny, at all.
sorry, the number, because I was going to ask if he would give us one, number of hookups for phase 2.
Phase 2 hookups.
We want to see pie charts again?
I don't need a pie chart. He could hold up 10 fingers.
So,
Okay, so we've got, yeah, please,
at some time in the future, not necessarily
Yes.
immediately,
I'm with you, yeah.
but what I would like is, and maybe we do a joint meeting with the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners, and maybe we wait until there might be a shift in the players on both boards and committees, would be to have a betterment basics discussion, to be sure that all of us understand where we are with betterments and how it works, what the calculations are.
I mean, for phase.
The fundamentals,
phase 2.
betterments, basics, and then further also sewer debt fundamentals so that we all understand, and by that I mean the collective we of both boards and committees, there's substantial overlap with the players. And then maybe even announce such a meeting for example, at the chairs meeting and say, look, we're having this, and invite others to come, because as Kevin knows, this weekend has been kind of interesting in addressing some questions from people who one would have thought by now would know about phase 1, phase 2 betterments versus yet strategy undecided for 3 and 4, and even where to find on the town website information that's posted. And then we've had some absolutely outstanding information recently from Scott Walker and Darren Tankerman with regard to the sewer debt, but we've needed to have a little bit of clarification with regard to the 0% financing, what it applies to, when it applies, and those types of things. So I think it would be just really, and again, whether we do that in June or wait till July for a little turnover on the committees, I think it would be just really, really good.
Yeah, the other thing I added too, Lynn, is the stabilization fund. You know,
Yes.
So people see, and the whole, it's kind of a financial 101.
The funding and the
Financial
financing,
101.
where does the money come from for all of this? I think that would just be really brilliant. Thank you.
So George, that's probably in early June.
I would say maybe later because the planning board and the Board of Health have to.
That's what I meant by the
Yeah,
turn.
so
New
the
players.
we may
players.
be, we may not be switched out and fully subscribed until July.
Okay.
I can say, I'll put on my Orleans Citizens Forum hat for a second, because I think the whole issue of debt and how that works, you know, is something that we've been trying to think of how we wanted to talk about. So I would see that would be something that the Orleans Citizens Forum would promote, just because we're always trying to figure out what's something that the Citizens Forum should be putting out versus what's something that the town should be putting out. And as the town has been putting out more information, we'd rather support the town's efforts to do that and get our members there, and we can then focus on stuff that is a little bit different. So I think we would certainly be happy to figure out how we would promote that kind of thing to our membership as well.
Great. All right. We've got a good batch of future agenda items. And last item,
Move we adjourn?
Second?
moved and seconded. We don't have discussion. All in favor?
Aye.